Hello students, myself Shanghamitra. Today I will start to describe the fifth poem from Beehive book that named A Legend of the Northland written by Phip Cary. Before going to describe line by line, you have to know who was Phip Cary. Phip Cary was born on 4th September 1822 and died on 27th July in 1871. She was an American poetess and the younger sister of famous poetess Alice Cary. The sisters co-published poems in 1849 and then each went on to publish volumes of their own. After their deaths in 1871, joint anthologies of the sisters' unpublished poems were also compiled. Among her famous works, poems of Alice and Phip Cary, poems and parodies, poems of faith, hope, and love, these are very famous. And ballads for little folk by Alice and Phip Cary, it is also famous. And she basically wrote ballads, hymn, etc. A Legend of the Northland is a ballad. Ballad is one form of poetry. Other forms are there. These are called ode, hymns. All are the kinds of poetry. So ballad, what I am describing what is ballad today, because this poem is a ballad. I have told ballad is a poem or song that tells about a long story, and this story that is passed on from generation to generation, and this story is obviously tells about ancient culture, that is also popular culture. And this poem is divided into several stanzas, almost 16, highest 16 stanzas. So this poem also, A Legend of the Northland, it is also divided into 16 stanzas, and each stanza consists of 4 lines. So let us discuss the poem line by line. The title of the poem is A Legend of the Northland. Legend means an ancient folktale that is passed on from generation to generation. This folktale is very popular. It is an oral story. This poem describes this oral story of the Northland. Northland indicates Canada, Alaska, Russia. These lands are very cold because these lands are situated near North Pole. So the inhabitants of Northland believe this legend, this ancient historical story. And this story is described throughout the poem in a narrative way. In this legend, in this ancient story, you will get to know about 2 characters. One is an old lady. She was very miser, she was very greedy and mean-minded lady. And that's why one Saint Peter, who was Saint Peter, later I will tell. Saint Peter who became angry about this for this lady, and he cursed her. This is the main story, and after reading this ballad, you will get to know one moral or lesson, because it gives us a deep message, deep moral to all of the reader, to us. Okay, let us discuss line by line. At first I am saying this poem is divided into 16 stanzas. All ballad divided into 16 stanzas, and this poem also, each stanza consists of 4 lines. So follow the last word of each line, because this poem's rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B. So just suppose Northland, it is A, few, B, winter, C, through, B. So few and through are rhyming words. Northland and winter are not rhyming words. So this rhyming scheme is followed by rest of the stanzas. Every stanza, suppose third stanza story, A, true, B. Then lesson, C, U, B. True, U are rhyming words. This stanza, Saint Peter, below, preaching, no. So Saint Peter A, below, B, preaching C, no, B. Below and no are rhyming words. Saint Peter, Peter and preaching are not rhyming words. So this rhyme scheme is followed by the rest of the stanzas. Now line by line I am describing, I am analyzing this poem. First stanza. Away, away in the northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Away, away. This away word is repeated second time also, because the poet wanted to say this land is very far away, it's situated in a far away in the northland, where the hours of the day are few. The hours of the day means the duration of daytime. This time is very less, very few. And the nights are so long in winter. In winter obviously in winter time nights are long in our land also, you will see, but daytime is short. But in these lands, these are situated near North Pole, that's why the sun does not directly just shine, does not shine directly, and that's why the lack of sunshine, the nights are very long and daytime is very short, that they cannot sleep them through. That's why they cannot sleep them through. Next, where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges, when it snows and the children look like bears' cubs in their funny furry clothes. So where in this land they harness, they means the inhabitants of Northland, they harness, they tied the swift reindeer. Swift means very fast, they runs very fast, they walks very fast. Reindeer, snowy, this reindeer is found in snowy area, and this reindeer is always found in Northland, in that area. So these reindeer are tied with the sledges, and the sledges means a cart. So the cart is run by the reindeer. When it snows, just imagine when it snows, when snowing is started, at that time the reindeer just runs with the sledges, with their carts, and the children look like the children of the Northland. They look like bears' cubs. They are compared with bears' cubs. Why? Because in their funny furry clothes, because the children wear furry clothes, wear that clothes that is made of, that is covered of fur. Fur means the fur of the animal, fur of the bear. That's why it is compared, bear's skin also covered with fur, and due to winter, due to coldness, that's why the children wear these furry clothes for warm their body. So these are compared, the children are compared with bears' cubs. Third stanza. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe it's true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. In the third stanza, they means the parents or elders of the Northland. They generally tell the children a curious story, ancient story. I don't believe it's true. I means here the poet. The poet don't believe. The poet don't believe it's true. It is actually a real story or not. And yet you may learn a lesson. But you will learn. You will read this poem. You will get a lesson, a moral, if you tell the tale to you. If I tell the tale, if the poet tell this poem to you. So the poem, if the poem will describe this poem, you obviously will get a moral. You means the reader. The reader obviously will get a lesson or moral. Okay, and from this stanza, from the fourth stanza, this ancient story is started. Okay, let's start. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching just as he did, you know. Once upon a time, when we start a story, we sometimes we will write once upon a time, once. So once upon a time, that is, it indicates a very ancient time period ago. So once, when the good Saint Peter, here Saint Peter is the apostle of Christ. Apostle means disciple. So the good Saint Peter lived in the world below, lived in the underground world below, and walked about it. So one day he walked and preaching. So generally he preached everyone. He used to preach everyone. Preach means he used to give a religious any idea, religious thought. He used to give religious preach. So just as he did, similarly, same wise he gave this preaching, this religious thought to everyone, you know. He came to the door of a cottage. Suddenly he reached at the door of a cottage in traveling around the earth, when he was traveling around the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. So he saw, at the time when he reached at the door of the cottage, he saw one little man. Here little is used because physically she was not little, I think. And if you think she was physically little, but the poet here used mockingly, little woman means little mean-minded. Mean-minded lady, mean-minded woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth, on the fireplace. Hearth means fireplace. Fire just look like oven. So hearth. And being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. So the saint, he was faint. Faint means he was weak due to hunger, because throughout the day he did not eat anything. That's why he was very hunger, and he asked, for the day was almost done, and at the end of the day, when the day had gone, at that time he asked her, he just begged her for her store of cakes, where she stored all the cakes after baking. From there, just he begged her single piece of cake, to give him a single one single piece of cake. Let's see what happened after that. Next stanza. So she made a little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. After that, she made a very little cake. When she heard the saint just begged her one single piece of cake, that's why she started making a little cake. But as it baking lay, when that dough just she put on oven, that dough is very little. She looked at it, and during baking time, she looked at the dough and thought, side by side, she thought it seemed too large to give away. She thought, what she thought? It's very large for giving to saint. So this stanza expresses what type of lady she was. Therefore she needed another, and still a smaller one. But it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. So the lady did not satisfy to give this dough to the saint. That's why she again needed another one. Needed means made another dough for the saint, and still a smaller one. And it is now a very small. It is smaller than the previous. But she thought it looked like a larger than the previous. When she turned it over, when she turned the dough turned over on the oven, then as large as the first had done, she thought it is as large as the first she had done. This stanza expresses the mean-minded lady she was. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough. She again took a tiny, very small, little bit scrap of dough, a small amount of dough, and rolled it flat, and baked it thin as a wafer. So it is rolled and rolled. Rolled, this word is placed side by side. This word used repeatedly because the poet emphasized here the mean-minded characteristics of the lady, because she rolled and rolled it again and again rolled, and it is made as flat as the previous, flat, very thin, and baked it thin as a wafer. I think you know what is wafer. Wafer, that is a cone of ice cream, that is a cone. It is called wafer, very thin, biscuit type. But she couldn't part with that. But now she was forced to give this very little bit of cake, just like look like a wafer. Now she could not separate with that. For she said, "My cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away." So she put them on the shelf. What she said, very dangerous statement she just had given. My cakes that seem too small. My cakes that seem too small means when I eat of them myself, when the lady eat a cake, a piece of cake that is very small, but when she gives this small cake to another one, to other person, at that time it's very large, she thought. So what type of the mind, what kind of person she was, just imagine. So she put them on the shelf, so she kept them on the shelf. Shelf means closet. There safely she put them, she kept all the cakes, whatever she had made. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a omen was enough to provoke a saint. So Saint Peter just did not tolerate that omen speech also. Then good Saint Peter, good, very genuine Saint Peter grew angry. He became very angry, furious, for because he was hungry and faint. At that time, in the meantime, he was hungry and weak. And surely such a omen was enough to provoke a saint. And in that moment, a woman was saying that speech, and she provoked him to be angry. That's why next stanza what happened, just see. And he said, "You are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm." Now the Saint Peter did not control himself. That's why he said, "You are far too selfish. You are too much selfish, too miser. You are too mean-minded. You are thankful to dwell in a human form, to live in a human. Dwell means live. To live in a human form." The Saint Peter told her, "You just got a human body, human form. That is for that you will be thankful for that. You are thankful because you got a human form. To have both food and shelter, and you got food and shelter also, but you does not deserve it. The lady does not deserve it, because the lady is too mean-minded. And fire to keep you warm, and you got also fire to keep yourself warm, because these places I have told are very cold, and that lady is very fortunate. She got all the things: food, shelter, fire, and Saint Peter at that time was very hungry and weak, faint also. That's why he did not control himself, and in that moment when he did not get any food, a single bit of food that lady gave him, what type of person. So that's why the Saint Peter did not control himself and cursed her. What he told, now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard dry wood. What he told, this is a curse, this stanza. Now you shall build as the birds do. The birds, what the birds do, birds they make their nest, and they do very hard work. So just like birds, you will build your nest. That means you will be transformed into a bird and shall get your scanty food. Now you will get your scanty food. Scanty means very little food, and for getting this little food, that's for that you will be do hard work. You will do hard work. You means the lady must have to do hard work for getting this scanty food, and by boring and boring and boring, and you will be fed up and fed up. Boring repeatedly the poet used, because it's very hard work. That's why it is emphasized here. All day in the hard dry wood, and all day, throughout the day, you will do your hard work for getting dry, very scanty, very little food, and dry wood for digging. To dig a dry wood, it is a very hard work. After doing hard work, you will get your scanty, very little food. So the Saint Peter cursed her. Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. And very instantly she, the lady, went through the chimney. He go out of the chimney, top of the chimney, and never speaking. She did not speak any word, because, and out of the top flew a woodpecker. And at that time, a woodpecker just flew out of the chimney, out of the top of the chimney, because that lady already was changed to a bird, or transformed into a bird, for the curse of the Saint Peter. She had a scarlet cap on the head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned black as a coal in the flame. So now the lady wore a scarlet cap. She put a scarlet means brilliant red color, scarlet cap on her head. That's why the head of the bird became red, and that was left the same. Now the same was left, was happened on the, just you will see the head of the bird, you will understand. But all the rest of our clothes, but the rest of our body were burned, because that is looked like black as a coal. That is black, full body black, only that part only red, because that lady wore a scarlet cap, red colored cap. That's why it is transformed, and the head of the bird is like red color, and the rest of the body is full black, because she wore a black dress in the flame. She was burnt, her body fully burnt. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. And every country means here rural areas, and it is a folktale of rural area. The inhabitants of rural area of Northland, they believe this folktale. So every country schoolboy, when they are going and coming from the school, at that time has seen her, they have seen that lady in the wood. What she was doing? She was digging on the wood, in the wood, for her home. And where she lives, in the wood hole, she lives in the trees like this very day, and all the day this lady lives in the wood hole, and by digging she made this wood hole. It's a very hard work, boring and boring for food, and for getting food she feel very boring and boring. She feels boring. So now imagine what is the bird she transformed into. That bird's name woodpecker. Woodpecker, all the time you will see woodpecker digs just wood hole for living and getting food, very scanty food. She that bird does very hard work. So this is the full folk tale, full story that is believed by the Northland inhabitants of the Northland. Now I am discussing about the figures of speech used in the poem. First, alliteration. Same letter will be placed at the beginning of the closely placed words. Suppose in this sentence, in a sentence also. Suppose in this sentence that T, same letter. Here they, the, same letter. Look like LL, funny, furry, FF, similar letter is placed at the beginning of the closely placed or side by side words in a sentence. They, tell, them. Next, yet, you, YY, learn, lesson, LL, tell, the, tell, TTT. Okay, this is called alliteration, and you will find out many more alliteration is there. Just for example, I am discussing only this part. Next, repetition. Same word is placed side by side in a sentence. So this is called, for emphasizing any other thought, away is placed side by side, repeatedly is used in a sentence for emphasizing far away. Emphasizing on the far away. Northland is situated in far away, so it is called repetition. And another repetition used here in this sentence, boring, and here also boring. So this is called repetition. Next is it's a very important, allusion. What is allusion? Allusion, any important character just take out from any famous epic or poem, poetry, etc. Suppose Saint Peter, it's a character of Bible. He is the disciple of Christ, so it is called allusion. And next, here, enjambment. Enjambment means two lines. Suppose these lines continued in the fourth line, no punctuation mark is in between the two sentences. No punctuation mark is placed in between two sentences. It is called enjambment. When one single sentence, one single line continued in the second line, it is called enjambment. No punctuation mark is placed in between two lines, so it is called enjambment. It is a figures of speech. And several enjambment are here. You will find out. Suppose this line, and yet you may learn a lesson. It is continued up to this line, and here full stop is placed, but here no punctuation mark is placed, so it is called enjambment. It's also, once when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below, comma is placed, but here no punctuation mark, so that is called enjambment. It is a figures of speech. Here, children look like bear's cub. Children are compared with bear because both skins look like furry, because children wore a furry clothes and bear skins are also furry. That's why This is the similarity. It is called explicit similarity. For explicit because it is not hidden similarity, because like or as is used for so that we will understand it is a explicit comparison. Here is a comparison. So it is the simile. It is called simile. Next, another simile is there. Dough baked it. It means dough. Dough is compared with a wafer. It is compared by using as, so that we will understand it is the comparison, explicit comparison, because as is used. When in a sentence as or like is used, you will understand it is an explicit comparison, and it is obviously a simile, because dough is compared with wafer because of thinness. Both are thin, that's why it is compared here. Next, another figures of speech is used here. Look at these sentences. Second and third line started with the same word, to. It is called anaphora. Second and third line, fourth line, fifth line, when consequent lines started with same word, this is called anaphora. But here two lines, consequent two lines are started with the same word, to. That is called anaphora. Another figures of speech. Repetition, simile 2 times is used. Repetition and alliteration several times is used. You will find out an enjambment also. Here repetition I have told, and simile 3 times used also. Black as a coal. What is black as a coal? Body. The body of the bird is compared with the coal because of black. Both bodies, both color is black, that's why. So as is used, that's why we will understand it is an explicit comparison. It is called simile. Another figures of speech. Okay, understood? These figures of speech are used in this poem, throughout the poem. And the definition of ballad is also here, and in my video also I have given. Okay, thank you.